Hello, everyone. I am Renata, the conference Teverishia host. And today we have Kamal Ahamada with us. Kamal is an educator and a public speaker around the themes of race, culture, identity, and diversity. And currently he's based in Vilnius, where he teaches and gives also independent lectures on these topics. Hello and welcome.
Hello, Renata. Thank you for having me. Very excited to start this conversation.
So how come you came to Vilnius one day?
Yeah, I guess like every foreigner would say, my wife brought me here.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, nice.
I think most of the foreigners here, at least from Western Europe, they would say the same, more or less the same thing. Yeah, my wife is Lithuanian, so I didn't have really a choice here. I just had to come, and then yeah, and I love it. I do love it.
Yeah. How long have you been living here?
So it's been 3 years already. It's been 3 years, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying every single bit, even the winter.
Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
like
yeah, I love
20 last year.
What? Say it again.
Like last year, it was minus 20.
Yeah, it was minus 20. I mean, the first year that I came, there was such harsh winter. It was snowing and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then the second year, it was okay. Last year, I got tired a bit of it. But when we look at the changing seasons, it's so beautiful, you know, from winter to spring and then spring, summer, and then autumn. That's such a beautiful time. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. How were you welcomed? I mean, how did you feel when you came here for the first time?
You know, the first time I came here was 10 years ago, like visiting. And then, yeah, I had all those looks, being a black guy in the street of Vilnius and with his hair. So there was a bit of curiosity and it was nice. And now it's a bit less. So I believe people get used to see foreigners around, which is a good thing. And it's actually the whole environment that changes. The streets are changing in Vilnius. The whole design of the city is changing. People are changing. I mean, and I'm happy to see that change. You know, I see it through the last 10 years. I see and I appreciate it's a positive change. Yeah. So yeah, I like that it becomes more diverse. Yeah, I like the fact that that also still people are curious about the others. It's not like we have foreigners and then that's it. And people are like, why are you here? You know, so why are you in this place? So yeah, they're quite interested, but nicely interested about you. Yeah.
They are more curious than, let's say, unhappy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm experiencing. But again, I'm talking about Western Black perspective. You know, foreigners coming straight from the global South, it is less appreciated. So what I'm trying to say, it's visible when you have someone like me from France moving in the city. There's a way of occupying the space, that I feel comfortable with. But if you take another Black foreigners from Africa, then he will be more shy and it will be more visible, the way he moves, and then people feel it. People feel that, people feel that a person is not from here, and then they label quite easily. And but still, I also got some very harsh statements from people. So being from the West, it doesn't prevent you from having some nasty comments. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say that those who come from straight from the global south, we can see now about refugees and stuff. It's much harder. It's much harder. Yeah.
So would you say that people are acceptant and tolerant about others or people which are very different from us, or mainly, I mean mainly, or are we like kind of afraid and do not really know what to do with it?
I think it's a natural process, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Lithuania becoming more international, then people have these natural questions, you know, and they are curious and they are also rejecting. So that's a normal thing to for a society to go through. And I believe and I hope it's gonna get better, you know. But people always compare, at least Lithuanians compare Lithuania to France or England and so on, and they're actually very critical about themselves. You know, the Lithuanians saying that, yeah, we are not good enough, we are not open enough as a society, and so on. But it's not what as a person, as a Black person from the West, I've never felt so good in a place than in Lithuania. It's
Really?
just to say how bad it is in other societies. It's not because you have diversity that you are more tolerant. And we will make a lot of misunderstanding about it. It's not that a society is diverse, that it's more tolerant. So what we need to learn, it's really values, you know, what we want to have as values. The case of France or England, or even the United States, which is the most visible case, it just confirms what I'm saying. It's a multicultural society. Taking New York or Paris or London, these are multicultural societies, but the level of racism and discrimination is very, very, very high. So it depends on what you do with this diversity, you know. So France, England, these are not examples of, you know, welcoming people. These are not the best examples.
I love that. But you say that diversity in itself isn't enough for being tolerant. But you need values around it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, not sometimes, I did that a couple of times. It's not my best, the work that I like the most, but I do it, you know, training on diversity. This is so overrated because, you know, diversity, it's not because a company has a mix of women, that there are a lot of women in the company, that it means that there's less sexism in the company, you know, or it's because they have more Black people that there's less racism or brown people. It's just the values that you want to, as a manager, that you want to, you know, spread in your company. Yeah. So these values need to be learned, but also unlearned, because the values that exist in a company, it's scary. It's a mini patriarchal white male society, and then this needs to be unlearned. So it depends on the manager what he understands by sexism, by patriarchy, by disability, by anti-gay, by racism, and so on. So, and the need to be big, just one time or two, it's not just one time or two times training. It needs to be a real process of learning how to read these systems of discriminations and oppressions. Yeah.
I told you just before the interview that I spent more than 20 years abroad, living in your country, France, and then Belgium. So I was in touch with this diversity that you are talking about. And still, when I got my children, and when they were still very young, and when these Black Lives Matter happened in the USA, I was like, what do I say? How do I say? Where do I even begin to explain this, complex history? What do I say to my children? And I think people living here, like in Lithuania, we are confronted with the same fears. We are afraid to even talk about it because of fear of being, awkward, or of not knowing what to say or what words are appropriate. So how do we talk about race with children?
Yes, that's a complicated question, actually, because I also have the same questions. I have a child who's 6, just turned 6. So she also witnessed that Black Lives Matter thing. And it all depends on the relation that you have with your child. So when an event takes place, such as Black Lives Matter, and then it would feel unnatural for you to start talking about race suddenly. He wouldn't connect to that for any parents, And that's what happened for most of parents who are interested in that topic. They suddenly started to talk about race, and then the child would be like, what are you talking about? So, it's about really starting this culture of speaking to your child in a way that is, constant. And it doesn't have to be related to race. It can be related to social issues. So maybe instead of talking about race, talk about social justice, what it means. For example, for my child, like when we go to the street, when we walk and we see these benches, we have benches now, so people don't notice that. But we have these benches where you sit next to the bus, near the bus stop, and now these benches have separations. They have these separations, one seat, one seat, one seat. So what people don't know about it, this meant to prevent homeless people to lay down, and it's all over the places. Yeah. So what you can ask your child is, oh, this bench is interesting. What have you noticed about that bench? And probably he'll say something along what you wanna go for, and you start the discussion from there. You can say, oh, poor people where when they are tired and they wanna sleep, they wanna lay down, but now they can't lay down there. So how come they cannot lay down there? Because some people decided that it's not good. And children have this strong sense of fair and unfair. So he would probably say, that's not fair to do that. Mm. And then you start with little by little talking about social justice. And one day the idea of race, for example, will come up. And if you want to start from the early age, if you meet two brown, black, or black family, or you can start the conversation that way. Oh, that's family, it's beautiful. Have you noticed something interesting or something about that family? Probably the child will say, oh, the hair. Oh, the hair is interesting. And then you can start with that. So what's up with the hair? Oh, they look so different than mine as a white person, if you go. They look so different than yours. And then you can start explaining why we have different colors, where we come from, and so on. So does it make a difference to have a different hair? No, it doesn't, and so on and so on. So you start with questions related to what your child is interacting with, whether in the street or whether with another child or when he plays. You need to take that opportunity to engage with your child on his own terms, not coming with something about Black Lives Matter, how I'm gonna discuss race with my child, because it is difficult. But the child sees the differences anyway, the differences of how people are reacting in the street. And then he might ask why they are reacting in the street, why they are protesting, But then you can have another term instead of protesting. My child was afraid of all these protest, you know. So she thought it was aggressive the way they were protesting. Mm-hmm. And then I said, no, it's actually protecting. They are protecting rights. They are protecting human values. They are protecting your right to speak or to live or whatever you come up with. So these are other ways to engage with children in not using race terminologies at this age, but there'll be an age where you have to use because that's the reality. But yeah, you can start with simple conversations with his environment, with his friends, like who were you, if it's about the school, who were you sitting next to today? That's something I ask a lot. Who are you sitting next to? Oh, I sat with Augustus. Oh, is he your best friend? So what do you talk about? And so on. What was the funniest part of your day today? Who are you very nice with? Who was nasty with you? Or who was not so nice with you? And what did he say? And then last time I found out that one of her friends called me Kaka. Yeah. So that's interesting. I said, yeah, she called me Kaka. Why? Oh, because maybe you're brown, you're black. And I started to have this conversation with her, but I found out about this because I started from very far, you know. Mm-hmm. So now I know that her friend called me Kaka, you know, and I know that her friend is afraid to meet me. So we say hi from very far, you know. But these are, yeah, I know, but these are terrible things actually that parents need to be aware of. The culture that they are spreading at home, it's in school, you know. Of course, the child wouldn't call me Kaka if she has heard something nice at home from her parents, you know. Mm-hmm. So yeah, all of that.
So you are saying that first of all, we should maybe look at our own attitude as parents. I mean, who we are friends with, how many diversity there is in our natural life. Yeah. And then starting from there, and diversity that could, you know, go length elsewhere. It hasn't be it mustn't be about race. It could be about, you know, social status, I guess, race also, but not only, like anything that is different from how we live.
Yeah.
How much of this different things we accept in our life, and how do we talk about it to children, and start with daily situations like at school. How did it go? What did you like? What didn't you like? What was the most funny thing today? And then maybe let children feel confident and tell us things about, like, oh, you know, he bullied me because I don't speak Lithuanian very well, for instance.
Yeah.
Or other thing, and then start from there. And I'm also wondering about this, you know, let's talk about how children treat each other. So let's say my son is I don't know, he doesn't speak Lithuanian, right? Because we lived abroad. This is not true. He speaks Lithuanian, but just for the sake of argument. And when someone tells him, you know, you're not Lithuanian because you don't even speak Lithuanian, let's say, what do we do with it? Or someone would say, you know, you are black, or you are Asian, or, you know, or whatever. What do we do with it? Which words are okay, which aren't? I mean, saying to someone you are black, it's a fact related to your skin, I guess, color. And it could also be meant and understood as you know, something that diminishes you because you are just on your skin color. How do we navigate through it?
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, the main thing when you label people, it's what is associated with it. Yeah. Like blackness is associated with, for this little girl, it's Kaka, but for what it means you are less valuable intellectually or than us. That's how Blackness is associated. The same with what we call disability, yeah, which is not a good term, but what is associated with a disability. It means that you are not as able as us physically, you know. So how to, and the same for many other things, like the different, the example with a child not speaking Lithuanian, it's, you know, so what languages he speaks, you know, if the language is French or is English, he's gonna be less discriminated because it is still cool to speak French or English, you know. I don't think it's as cool to speak Arabic nowadays, for example. So it's how you associate a language with the value, and that's problematic. And parents should do the same kind of work as you were saying, you know, how it's about learning their own bias. You know, it's really about acknowledging what you are teaching to your child, unconsciously or not. You know, so you need to take these terms. You need to acknowledge that as a dad, you most likely you have sexist comments, like, which is 99% of the case. Where as a white person, most likely you come up with nasty comments about brown and black people, because that's the society people say that it's unconscious bias, but I have problems with it because we have internalized so much this labeling and associations. I know that I'm aware. Last time I had to apologize with my little girl because I was saying that she should change her hair. She was very, very upset, you know, but that comes from the culture of men policing or dictating what a girl or woman has to do with her body, you know, and I have internalized it. And then I had to go to apologize. Oh, this was wrong, you know. Now you can free your hair, you can do whatever you want. So we need to acknowledge our own bias and start it from there. And then try to engage with the child in a way that is, you know, that is related to her environment. So that all I could say about it. And you need to know your child as well. You know, you won't have the same approach with your white kids as I have with my mixed race child. It's another approach because she's experiencing it every day. And this comes to the discussion probably of when to talk about race to your child, for example.
Yes.
Studies have shown that very, very early age, children see differences from very early age. And from 4 to 5, 6, from 4 years old, they start to see the racial difference. And this is exactly what I've noticed with my child when she was 4. I've noticed that she wouldn't engage anymore so openly with other kids outside because she felt the gaze, what we call the wide gaze on her, the way they were looking at her, you know. So I used to have, I mean, she still, but she was very open. She would go to the kids, but the way these other kids of 4 to 6 years old would look at her, then she'd stop engaging in such a way, in the way that she was before. So the way she's reacting in public space is now different because she's witnessing the way we look at her in a different way. Maybe it's not mean, but she feels that she's different, you know. So the way I will talk with her, it will be different because she has direct experience. But the way a dominant white society would talk with her children, white mother, white dad, then I would suggest to really start from these little things around social justice. If as Lithuania is very white dominant society, then we cannot dismiss the race as in the discussion because we don't have enough black and brown people. We cannot dismiss it. What people don't understand is that race, it's everybody. What Lithuanians, for example, experience in Scandinavia or in East London is racism. They associate, not what, yeah, I said what Lithuanians, they experience what racism is. They are looked at as a second white citizen, you know. So it's very visible. Even if you try to hide it, there's a time, if you come from Eastern Europe as a white person, if you go to Scandinavia, if you go to France, in France in the 80s, we had a lot of Polish people, then they were the target of it. They were racialized. People have to understand that race is a social construction. It's not necessarily about colors. It's how we label people according to their locality or their culture or anything. So yeah, people can be targeted. So Lithuanians, talking from the Lithuanian perspective, they know what is being racialized. They don't have, maybe those who are traveling, they don't have the words for it, but they know that there is something going on, why they looked at that way, you know. And then they can start the discussion from there, from their own experience, if they are travelers. If they are not, let's look at how we treat disabled people. Let's look how we don't look at it as we don't look at them as being part of the society. Then you can engage with your child in such discussion. Oh, I see he cannot walk. So what can we do with it? How come he cannot go to school if he can't walk? So what the school should do? Probably the school should have a lift, you know, why it's missing in a school, in a progressive school. Do you think it's fair that there's no access to wheelchairs in your school? What we should do about it? So maybe you can engage in a real discussion with the school, your child. You know, it can also be about social status. My child was, there's a nice lady in our school, because I teach in a secondary school and my child goes to the kindergarten. There's a nice lady, she's the cleaner, you know, and she's very nice. She always says hello, and my child says hello. And my child came one day complaining about why she works too much. You know, she's always cleaning, you know, she's always cleaning. Why it's only her? So this was a good time to start a discussion about social justice, about status, economic status, about visibility, why this woman is so invisible, why nobody says hello, why it's only you, my child, who says hello. And from that, she offered to help her one day to clean the school. And we organized that for her with her teacher. So she went to clean with that lady. So that was teaching her about what is invisibility, but not in these terms, you know, why nobody pays attention to her. So why it's so important to say hello to everyone, why there's nobody higher than the others. You could also talk about what is being older, because she's an old lady, yeah? So what the place of older people in our society, are they visible or not? What we should do. So all these kind of topics can be talked through. And then from that, she's ready or he's ready for any other topic related to social justice or race. You know.
And I love when you say that, you know, racism, it isn't necessarily about race, but it could be about or discrimination, let's say about anything, about social status or, you know, the job you do in a society, the language you speak. I remember I caught last fall, my kids came back from street. They were playing outside, and we were like, you know, mom, we met two boys and they wouldn't speak Lithuanian. I was like, which language did they speak? I was like, I don't know, probably Russian. And so I know that they couldn't make distinction. They couldn't have figured out by themselves that it was Russian. So I was like, how did you come up with, you know, the language definition? And like, yeah, the other kids, you know, all the ones, and they told us. And the next day, like, those kids came over. And I was outside in the garden. I was like, oh, it seems like you speak Russian because you can recognize someone speaking Russian. And we were like, no, we don't. It was, oh, that's strange, because I understood that, you know, you told my kids that you heard someone speaking Russian in the street. I was like, no, we don't even know what language it was. But as they didn't speak Lithuanian, we said it was Russian because, you know, all these Russian people living here from, you know, very like many years, and they still don't speak Russian. And that moment I knew that it has nothing to do with kids or even them able to recognize the language. It has all to do with what they heard someone, meaning adults in their lives, tell about, you know, this minority that we have in Lithuania, like people who only speak Russian, the older people, because they didn't got time or chance to adapt, and they kept their language, and they still have like trouble speaking Lithuanian when we go to Maxima, you know, or wherever. So they heard someone, an adult, defining, labeling those people as bad or less than us, you know, in some sense. And we were just reproducing what they heard around them. Like we didn't come up with this idea by themselves. They just were repeating what they heard, like probably, I don't know, parents, neighbors, grandparents, you know, whoever it was. And that's why it's, as you say, it's this acceptance about diversity should start with us. Like how accepting we are, how we notice what's happening around us. Like this cleaning lady, or someone who brings, you know, food with Barbara when you order online. How do we speak to those people? You know, what do we say? Do we say hello? Do we say thank you? Do we acknowledge that they help us? Like, I mean, we are all interdependent. There is no, you know, up or down. We are all on the same level doing what we do. So, but that's the most difficult part, I guess, because we only want to teach children to be all those things, you know, to be open-minded, tolerant, and we neglect ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. We don't show the examples. And the example of Barbara, it's a good one, but also Volt, you know, Bolt and Volt, how they, how we see them, you know. There's a good documentary about it done by Lithuanian person, Karolis, his name. And he made a whole documentary about the invisibility of those people. So it's really how we interact with them as parents or as adults that make a difference, you know. And also it's about the worldview. It's really about your worldview. And parents need to be aware of that. Here, what I've noticed, okay, Lithuanian children seem to be very reserved, you know, but and then whenever I would meet one, they'd be scared of me, or you know, be a bit cautious, which is normal. But one day, I still remember that girl, that little girl. I went for an interview or something, and she was there with her mom. And then she made a big smile welcoming me and stuff. And I was so surprised because that was the first time. And the mom, what she said, she was so happy to know that, because I told the mom that, you know, your child is amazing, you know. And she said, oh, I think it's because I've given her different dolls, black dolls as well. And it is very important. So she was aware of that. Even on the diversity of the toys, of the dolls, it made a huge difference because the mom was very cautious about that. You know, what do we associate with ugliness, for example? So people can say homelessness, people would say blackness, and so on and so on. So that girl was very aware. She was living already in a diversity world. Yeah. So my presence didn't shock her at all. She was like, yeah, okay, welcome, and so on. So yeah, parents are important, but also everybody around. So as a parent, you need to educate your grandparents, you know, the whole environment. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Yeah, it's worth it because it does make a difference, really. Yeah.
How, as you mentioned, like educating like our own parents, I guess, who's up from, you know, older generation. How do we talk to them about it? I mean, what do we say? If someone says some racist, you know, word or even sentence, how do we react? What do we say?
I really don't know because it is like sometimes a lot scarce, you know. But one thing that I think people shouldn't do, those who have whether black friends, brown friends, gay friends, or people with disabilities, is to, because people do that a lot, is to say, okay, we go to my friends or to my grandparents, they're a bit racist, so, but don't mind about them. You know, they are just old or stupid. It's something that I think, well-intentioned people shouldn't do because it put us in a very uncomfortable situation with a lot of microaggressions. And then we have to accept it because they are stupid or old and stuff. Yeah, and that's microaggression all the time. And we don't need all these people don't need to go through that to make yourself happy or to excuse you for something. And what can be done is really keep educating, but you realize that it's exhausting to educate people. It's really exhausting. You know, people should do their homework, you know. And that's something that I want to do less, you know, educating people about race or discriminative policies and so on, because people should do their homework. It's not, because every time we talk about our experiences, we need to be aware that it's actually relieving the experience from inside. But it's really violence on our psyche and body, whether you're brown, whether you're disabled, and so on. So asking people to educate other people, you know, I say that not because I'm often asked to educate or to go to talk, for example, university, and sometimes it's for free, or most of the time. And then people, you know, they just don't realize how hard it is, because even though you talk about the experience in a scientific, academic way, it's still your experience. You know, you can talk about racism in terms of sociology, political science, and so on. But as a Black person, or as a person targeted by that or going through that, it's also your lived experience, you know. So that is very hard. So what you can say to your friend, it's first to do their homework, and then you can also educate them about it, and then you realize that it's tiring. Then you just want a peace of mind for yourself, because it's not that easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and from my experience, when you try to explain something to someone or prove your point to someone, then people get defensive. And then there is no point. There is no more dialogue. There is only,
Yeah.
I am trying to be right and someone else trying to be right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
usually with children, like talking about anything, it could be diversity, but it could be also boundaries, whatever it is, I tell them all the time, that we're different. There are lots of things we share in common, but we also are different and we see things differently and we use different words. And there is nothing we can do about others. I mean, the way they express themselves or the way they behave, that's on them. That's how they choose to live their life. We can do everything related to us. So the words that come from your mouth, you choose them. And um, I don't want, like, every time they use, let's say, a not very nice word towards someone. I'm not saying that, they're being nice or not nice people. I'm just saying, this word has this meaning, or this word may affect someone and hurt their feelings. Do you really want to use it? If that's what you want to say is, you want to define the color of the person or the way they speak, you could use this word. It would mean the same thing and it wouldn't hurt the feelings because it would be neutral. Like, I'm always trying to show them, let's say, inclusive language, how you can say the same thing but without hurting. How could we define someone precisely but without attacking him or labeling him? And I explained that, even if it's sad, there's nothing we can do about how others decide to live their lives, even if it's toward us. When they come crying from outside, like, oh, mom, he said, whatever, I am short, or, that's how this person decided to behave at that very moment. That doesn't mean he's a nice or a bad person. Maybe he was having a bad day himself, and that doesn't say anything about you. So I don't know if I made myself clear. I am more into, like, modeling. I live by my values, but what I believe. And this is my way of showing the others that you could too. But then it's up on, them, if they choose my path or if they stay, wherever they are.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, living by example is the best education you can give to people and to your child. Yeah, it's not always easy, right? But yeah, that's that the best way of dealing with that, So yeah, totally agree with that. Totally agree. And also about it's whether it's race or not, but people have the tendency to say, I don't see color, we are all human beings, and so on. So this kind of also not a good statement to start with, because children do see those differences. Now it's about what is so different and what is so beautiful about the difference and what is also connecting us. But being dismissive and saying, I don't see differences, then it doesn't help, because children see those differences of color, of people, of hair, of anything. They just try to understand, what why there's such a difference, Yeah.
And how do we deal with all of this in classroom? I mean, we could be example at home, and then kids go to school. How does it happen in classroom? How do we address bullying, racial, and not only in classroom?
Yeah, this is tough, and I have to say, yeah, that's a major issue in all the places I've taught, but in all, let's say, in all societies. Uh, teaching in Denmark, it's an issue, because you can see it's about status, it's about disability, because it's also white dominant society. Teaching, I haven't taught in France yet, actually, But yeah,
No?
but I experienced France as a child. So yeah, racist practices. Oh, yeah. Talking for myself, racist practices started from early age.
Mm.
For parents, black and brown parents or mixed race, they have to be aware of that. What's happening in the playground, it's scary. You know, 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, I was always fighting because of the racist slurs and so on. And it's the same today with kids. Nothing has changed. People think that yeah, we we are more tolerant and so on, but nothing has changed. The stories that I hear today from parents, black and brown parents, it's what I've gone through. The difference is I had bigger brothers, so they were fighting all the time. But when you're a little girl or a little boy alone in school, it's really tough.
Mm.
So, and teachers are not trained, not only teachers in Lithuania, but they are not trained to address bullying. Most of the campaigns fail to address bullying, and it's actually more and more. There's more and more bullying because you can't disconnect bullying from the society. It's all connected. I mean, if you have a bully society, you have a bully playground, because the bully society bully the whole education. It's not, education being the least funded institution in a society, at least one of the least. So it's being bullied. So when you have a bullied institution, you have the institution, the institutional people who are bullied. So you have the head teacher who's gonna bully the teachers, and you have the teachers who will bully the kids, and not even mentioning the academic fields, the pressure that is on the head teachers to perform so that they are better, they're the best schools. It's a lot of stress put on them. And this stress, they put that on the teachers. And that's why you have so many overstressed teachers. And these overstressed teachers, they transmit it to your child. The teachers transmit that to your child, and it's spread around. That's how most of the bullying campaigns don't function, because they don't take the issue from the roots. It's about the society, how we can create a better society. So it's the same for race, the same for disability, why we don't have access for disabled kids in our school. They are being silenced, they are being invisible. So when they happen to be in a school, then they are being bullied by the kids because they have never seen them. They look so different. We don't know how to deal with that. And when someone is performing much less, why that child is performing much lower than the other kids. So what is the place we are, what is the academic value of a school? Why a school wants to perform so much, focusing so much on mathematics and science? Why the child who's very good at creativity is less valued than the others? And then you have bullying on that as well. So about the economic status is the same. Why there is so much difference of clothing or fashion from another child to the other. So it just you see in the school, you see it's a mini society. You see how the society is constructed in that little playground. How do we look at the poor in a society? How we are rejecting them? Then the child with who seems to be poorer than the others, then he's going to be bullied. So now how the teachers have to address that. In terms of race, they're gonna say, we are all human beings. We value all the kids the same way. But this is not enough, because there are differences. There are differences, and you need to tackle that. you need to stop everything that you do during the academic hours. You need to stop and address the whole issue about bullying. You know, it's not like, oh, someone, a child is coming to you and say, oh, he told me that I was not nice because I'm fat, for example. Yeah. So the teacher has to stop everything and address what is sexism, what is grossophobia, as we call it, why we came to that point, you know, and it's every time. If it has to take 6 months, it will take 6 months. But what they don't understand, that it's actually learning. When you have a good learning environment, free, bullying-free education school, then you'll have a better learning. But teachers and head teachers are so stressed on not achieving what they are required to do, then everything just piles up, piles up, piles up. So we have a denial from the teachers and head teachers of racial bullying in schools. You know, I have some parents going to mixed race parents with their child, complaining about their child being racially bullied, but the teachers and managers, they say this doesn't exist because we are all human beings. We value each child the same way. But yeah, it is true they do, but it's not the reality of that child. You know, being dismissive doesn't help. So they are not trained in anti-bullying campaigns, or they are in denial of it. But it's something very, very serious in Lithuania, but not only in Lithuania. The difference is that I saw that at least the Lithuanian teachers that I work with, they are denying it totally, you know. But there is as much bullying in an English playground than in Lithuanian playground. The difference is to how you accept it and how you started tackling it. Nice.
So I remember when we were looking for a school and a preschool in Belgium, and we visited some of them. And the school that I fell in love with was the school where the principal told us that, you know, when we see someone smoking, we stop the behavior and we talk about it, even if it's, you know, in the middle of the class or, you know, whatever. When we see someone taking or dealing drugs, we stop it and we talk about it. When we see someone bullying someone, we stop the lesson and we talk about it. And I thought that's, you know, that what we were saying, like, even if it takes, you know, an hour, a day, a month, a year, it's still worth it because it's the only way to stop it. Because we need to notice it. We need to let other people know that we noticed that it's not okay. And let's talk about it, why it's happening. What are your needs? Maybe what are your unmet needs? You know, why are you behaving like that? Because, you know, someone who bullies someone else, usually that someone is also hurting and trying to, you know, hide his own weaknesses or sadness or family tragedy, maybe, whatever it is. So that person is still hurting. That's very difficult maybe to apprehend because we, you know, the bully, we tend to think about them as very mean, you know, people, born that way, but which is not true. So yeah, the teacher who says, I stopped my lesson to talk about bullying, I was like, wow, that's the way it should be. But I guess, as you say, teachers are not trained for it.
They're not, and managers think that a one-time campaign is enough, but it's really about keeping it up the whole academic year and even more. And and they need to understand how bullying functions, not and also a lot of these anti-bullying, they focus on the individual, you know. Instead, they have to, of course, but they also have to take the whole community into considerations. They need to address parent issues. What's going on at home? You know, why are you reacting that way? What is going on in our school? Yeah, what kind of culture we have set in our school that allows this kind of bullying? Are we saying hello to the receptionist? Are we saying hello to the cleaner? You know, are we valuing that person, or are we just ignoring it? You know, so being conscious of all of that makes it a good school. You know, it makes a good school. Having experience in education, I know that a school is good from the reception. When the receptionist says hello in a very nice way, I know it's a good school. You know, as simple as that. Of course, you need to investigate more, but it starts from there. How we look at these so-called lower jobs or something like that. Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking also about this school in Brussels, and as you mentioned, the receptionist, I remember the receptionist over there, and she was like feeling she was a part of the school. Like she was the one showing us around, you know, like this is our garden, this is our canteen, this is our classroom. She knew everyone by name. Children were coming to her and saying hello and even hugging her. And at that point, I didn't know anything about the school, the academic goals, or, you know, anything else. I just was thinking, wow, that feels like home. You know, this close relationship, this kind and warm welcome.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, no, someone who feels valued in a school, that must be very, like, you know, open-minded society or community, you know, also parents, I guess, teachers, and they are all like in all of this together, like, you know, this big family, and it felt just good.
Yeah, it feels right, and you feel that your child is in a good hands, you know. And yeah, and head teachers should really focus on this sense of community, on making people happy in the school, every single person. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Kamal. That was a pleasure, very enlightening and optimistic conversation, I guess. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing.
Yeah, thank you. It was very nice talking to you. It was, yeah, it was nice. I hope we're gonna have more conversations in the future. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that your public will enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.